Welcome everyone, distinguished guests, friends, relatives, family, doctors, VRN partners. Welcome all of you to the grand opening of VRN Southwest Florida.
My name is Doug McIntrott, and I'm so glad and honored to be here with you all. I'm the Director of Communications and Event Programming for VRN, Verifiable Recovery Network, and the partners. As we do with each one of our programs, we always start with the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see? What's so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we were so gallantly streaming, and the rugged red light, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free? And the home of the brave.
God bless America and all of you. To begin, I would like to introduce one of my closest friends and the founder and significant person of the Verifiable Recovery Network. In his career history, he has been an experienced teacher, an administrator, high school principal, an athletic coach, amongst other things. And now, a very successful prosecuting attorney. His inspired leadership continues to infuse the soul and the partnership of VRN here as we develop this flagship location and all ongoing sites that we have planned for VRN. I would like to introduce a very special person to you, Attorney Angelo Papa.
There's two or three things that are going on here. First of all, you are here by invitation only. We don't want to sound snobbish, but this is not your mother's treatment facility. This is a special treatment facility. It's special in two or three ways. One of them is that we are totally abstinent. Total abstinence. There is no narcotic medication. TAMAT, we believe someday will be a phrase that will be chanted when we can ride the wake of people like our guest speaker here. So we would be so honored to pull the rowboat behind that battleship that you're pulling, that you've pulled so long, and have thousands of people in an auditorium chanting TAMAT. Because you know what? The national anthem talked about freedom and how cool it was when we heard the land of the free. But they are not free. You want to talk about prisoners who were left behind in Vietnam and all that very sad stories. Is that World War II was almost over, and it was over what? It was almost over once, disastrously. If the United States of America had not entered the war, we were close to living in an unfree society. When America joined the war, it may have taken a while for us to get serious, but it was over at that time. The key ally in any war on drugs, and Tim and I talked, and Tim, every word you said had put goosebumps on my body. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy you are. The war was over when the key ally entered. The key ally in substance abuse is the addict or the alcoholic. Dr. Opita, he can tell you that. He can tell you in scientific terms till dawn tomorrow. He's not going to, don't panic. But that's what it's all about. I always tell a story about my tomboy daughter, my third child, who I always worried about being picked on in school and whatnot. She was an athlete. And one day I was at a softball tournament and some coach said, "Move in, she can't hit it that far. No one can hit it that far." You know how that ended. She hit it over everyone's head, cleared the bases, won a tournament. And I still have goosebumps on my body. Why don't you get high? Why don't you get high? Why don't any of us get high here? Because like it or not, corny or not, we get high on life. Every day something happens. On a Monday, which I hate in my office, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, every day something unexpected happens and it lifts me. It makes me feel good about who I am and what I've done. Guess what? Those people don't get that. They have that cobra, that python wrapped around their core and their inner spirit where you get that from. And we now have a way, technology-wise, to unleash that cobra. And you know what happens? They get something they haven't had for a while. And for 30 days, they are free of substance abuse. And in 60 days, they're starting to feel good about who they are. In 90 days, they're ready to defend the same thing you defend every day, your reputation, because they got one now, thanks to you. So we have several phases to what we do. The first 15 years, we just were a cry in the wilderness. And Tim and I can probably tell you horror stories about that, where we know there's something in us that needs to be said. And we're not going to go quietly into the night. We're going to say it. If it's two people, if it's one person, or if I'm going to make you stop in a corner and I'm going to tell you whether you want to hear it or not, it needs to be said. That first 15 years went on. In 15 years, we saw technology catch up to Nancy Reagan. We saw gifted people like Dr. Opita there who knows this device. He can put a device on somebody's ear and we can detox somebody in 6 minutes. That sounds pretty bold because all of the advertising from FDA cleared approval talks about 85% of the withdrawal symptoms are reduced within what, doctor, an hour to two? I watched it in St. Louis Friday, a week ago tomorrow. I watched a young man, a young farmer and his family drive 9 hours somewhere. I may be off on my geography, but they drove from northern Arkansas and it was somewhere between 4 to 9 hours. They walked in, they still had their field clothes on. Everything they owned was still in the car. They drove to Dr. Arturo Taka, a gifted colleague of ours, and I watched him connect with them, and I watched him put that bridge on, and I watched that man detox in 6 minutes, unless my Apple Watch doesn't work. And I said to myself, that's so cool. Because we know that's cool, those are in our medical colleagues, because we know now that person can get the once-a-month injection of naltrexone, Vivitrol, non-narcotic TAMAC. Non-narcotic TAMAC. And we give that person some counseling, and we let people who are gifted leaders and gifted inspirational people like Mr. Ryan get a hold of them and teach them stuff they forgot, teach them how to be a human being, and teach them how to be proud again. And you know what we've done? We have turned who used to be a victim into a soldier in this war on drugs. And Nancy, pardon me, step aside. We have a war. We're going to fight. We're going to win. We're tired of throwing $1 trillion away on loosed bottles. So that sounds really cool, right? Nobody would believe us. Tim knows how many people walk away and say, that was an entertaining evening, but what am I going to do now? I'm just going to go home and life goes on. I met a gifted doctor, Joe Goth. I knew him for a long time. And I met other gifted doctors through Joe Goth. He put me on the phone with a man from Florida. And this man from Florida I never met before, but I knew he spoke like George Patton.
I knew he spoke like Ulysses S. Grant. He's a guy who he doesn't polish it up, but he's going to kick you in the pants and make it work. And Fred Eck and I talked one time for the first time. I was in Dallas, Texas, and we were on the phone. He exhausted my battery because I didn't want to hang up. I finally met somebody who wanted to roll up their sleeves and make it happen. And so Dr. Fred Eck got on the phone with me, and we started a relationship. And we're down here now in Florida. I come from a very deprived area. Please edit that one, Dante. Yeah, right. Okay? I come from a very deprived area. Those are edit cues. I come from a very deprived area, and we're in the Rust Belt and everything. And I'll tell you what, if you follow the pattern of drug addiction through Indiana and Illinois, where you come from, sir, you know that it follows gloom. It follows people who don't have a hope. Please don't get too engorged with the shrimp. And remember that there are people out there that don't even know these facilities exist. Because guess what? Everything they own is going up their arm or through their nostrils. And they have dreams just like you do. Now, I'm not an advocate of pulling a rowboat alongside the Titanic and saying, does anybody have a ride? I'm not a Peace Corps guy. You were handpicked. You were invited here. This is a select group because this is a group that, thanks to people like Dr. Eck, this wonderful concept can become a great business model, and it can sustain itself. Because all the gifted speakers in the world have one problem just like you. They have families to feed. They have families they're away from. So it is an honor to call to the stage our local VRN chapter. There's 2 or 3 things you need to know as he approaches the podium. V is for verifiable. Those aren't just letters. 15 years I've been an assistant prosecutor, and I had to make this speech in the face of an assistant district attorney or a district attorney and some overworked street smart trial judge, and I had to tell him that it worked. And what happened 15 years later? We got better, and it got better. So the pushback, the anvil of litigation allowed us to become hardened and steel worthy. And we have a program now. All I needed, most of all, was to meet somebody like this gentleman who could turn it into a business model. This man knows how to run a successful practice. That's important because the last letter in our phrase is network. Tim, you and I are tired of turning on 100 people at a time. We want to turn on hundreds of thousands at a time, right? And we want to give people a fighting chance because we want to tell them, you go to this address tomorrow and you will be totally abstinent and you will come back to where you belong and write your name in a place of prominence in a fine city like this with a fine, wonderful partner like Dr. Fred Eck.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank all of you for coming. I'll make this short because I don't want to take any time from Tim. He is an amazing presenter, and very, very honored to have him show up at this event. We know how busy you are, and the fact that you made time for us is fantastic. I want to thank all of my partners from VRN, most of which are here. Those that couldn't be here, still thank them for allowing me to join this group. Most importantly, Dr. Joe Goff for that chance introduction that he made between me and Angelo, that at the end of the day will save many, many lives around the country. I just wanted to tell a little story. We just opened. We are actually open. We saw our first patient last Saturday. Somebody who is a local person, going through withdrawals, long history, single father of a 13-year-old, and he was given some time off of work to, fix himself, if you will. For those of you involved and know anybody involved with addiction problems, it's not usually a quick fix. So he ended up getting referred to us, and can you imagine his life if he had to do the typical go away for 30 days inpatient program? The mother of the child is not around, so what happens to his 13-year-old daughter? Okay. What happens to his job? So if you lose your job and you have problems with your 13-year-old daughter because you had to go away for addiction treatment, that just creates more problems. One of the most fantastic parts about this program is that it is all outpatient based. You don't have to leave your job, leave your family, leave your children. You can do it all locally and outpatient-based. For those of you who are not familiar with Tim Ryan, let me finish that story about him. So he came in Saturday. Dr. Joe Goff applied his device, and within 30 minutes, he was much, much better. 4 hours later, Dr. Goff got a text from him telling him how tremendous and wonderful this device was. He actually wanted to come here tonight and speak because he was that excited about the process. We'll be seeing him tomorrow to do his next step. So this is a wonderful, wonderful process. I want to thank Heather and Doug for all the time and effort you've put in to make this event happen. I know it's a lot of time and energy. Tim's book, we have them spread around here, inside around most of the tables, so everybody's welcome to grab one on your way out. It is a great read. I think I got everybody taken care of. I will turn this over to Doug now because he'll introduce you to Tim, and I think you'll all love what he has to say. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Eck, very much. As we move forward, let us have a moment of silence for all those who have lost their lives, who have lost family members, who have lost fathers, mothers, children, nieces and nephews to the horrible, horrible scourge and binding chain of that addiction. And also for a very special friend of ours, Dr. Neil Capretta, who has been an instrumental member of this team with Angelo for 15 years. He lost a courageous battle to cancer. He fought and fought and fought, but it came back for the fourth time. And sadly, he's with the angels looking over all of us. Believe me, his heart is still here. His heart's with you, his heart's with us, and we know it and we feel it. So if we could just have a moment of silence before we continue for Dr. Neil Capretta and all of those, even if you've lost someone in your family or anyone that you know of. Now.